Walt Disney often spoke of the importance of fairy tales and their timeless appeal. He believed that fairy tales provided essential lessons and moral values, offering hope and inspiration. Disney saw these stories as a way to entertain while also imparting important life lessons. He wanted to bring these classic tales to life through his movies, to preserve their legacy and ensure they continued to inspire future generations. He famously said, "Fantasy and reality often overlap. It's the magic of these stories that I wanted to bring to life." Fairy tales like Cinderella speak to our subconscious to help us reach enlightenment. And I think that Walt Disney brought this fairy tale to film for that very reason. The Disney version of Cinderella is based on Charles Perrault's version from 1697. His version was called Cinderella or Cinderella, the Little Glass Slipper. Perrault's version features many of the classic elements familiar in Disney's adaptation, including iconic elements such as the fairy godmother, the pumpkin-turned carriage, and the glass slipper. But Cinderella is actually an ancient oral story that dates back further than we will ever know. It was passed from generation to generation, as far back as humanity goes. The earliest recorded version of Cinderella is called Rhodopis, and it is the Egyptian version of Cinderella, and that version was recorded sometime between 64 BC and 24 AD. That's really old, and that's just the oldest recorded version. It's much older than that. Now that we have some of the history out of the way, let's get a little more personal. What did Disney's Cinderella mean to you? Think back to when you were a kid, sitting down with your popcorn, waiting for your mom to put the VHS in the VCR, or the DVD in the DVD player, or click the button on the streaming site, depending on how old you are. As you watched the beautifully illustrated story, what lesson was your subconscious picking up on? Can you remember? Most of us identified with the main character, Cinderella. She resonated with something deep within our core. That is because Cinderella represents an archetype. Carl Jung defined archetypes as universal symbols or patterns that are present in the collective unconscious of all humans. They are innate and inherited, and they shape our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Cinderella represents the innocent archetype because she faces abandonment and hardship, and yet she maintains hope and purity. She embodies this archetype by keeping her kind and optimistic nature despite her difficult circumstances. The innocent is pure, virtuous, and faultless, free from the responsibility of ever having done anything hurtful or wrong. The eternal optimist, this archetype's glass is always half full. The innocent lacks guile and corruption and seeks the promise of paradise. All children are born embodying this archetype, and all children must endure the hardships and mistreatment similar to Cinderella. Cinderella embodies this archetype throughout her entire transformation, from extreme hardship all the way to crowned princess, urging us to do the same. And while you were snuggled up munching popcorn on the couch, can you remember how angry and frustrated you felt at the stepmother and the stepsisters? We were all thinking the same thing. How can her father let that happen to her? Why would he marry such a vile woman and allow her to treat his only daughter with such cruelness? The stepmother and her ruthless daughters represent the shadow. The stepmother leads with jealousy and a desire to dominate, and she embodies the darker traits of envy, manipulation, and cruelty. Her character highlights the shadow's function of hindering growth and keeping positive aspects hidden. The stepsisters' selfishness, vanity, and lack of empathy showcase the shadow's tendency to undermine and ridicule the positive traits in others and in oneself. Their role in the story is vital to show the contrast between their negative traits and Cinderella's virtuous traits. They act as significant obstacles for Cinderella to endure and overcome, representing the internal and external challenges faced on the path to enlightenment. They also serve as a mirror, because if we're being completely honest with ourselves, sometimes in our everyday lives, we act a little bit more like the stepmother and stepsisters than we would like to admit. They reflect the potential for negative traits within everyone, reminding us of the importance of acknowledging and integrating the shadow aspects of ourselves. themselves. My favorite character of the entire movie is the fairy godmother. I absolutely love how she appears at just the right moment when Cinderella is so heartbroken and needs her guidance the most. Her character symbolizes the wise woman as well as the magician archetype. She encourages Cinderella to believe in herself and in her dreams. She empowers her to step out of her oppressed state and embrace her highest potential. Her magic represents Cinderella's inner growth and awakening, showing that change starts from within. The fairy godmother provides the care, support, and nurturing that Cinderella needs, acting like the mother that she's lost. Many of us may not have had the kindest, most nurturing mother because, well, our mothers are really just flawed humans trying their best in this confusing world. But as we get older, it's up to us to seek an internal archetypal mother figure to help guide us and provide the love and support that we long for. Our own inner mother figure can communicate to us through our bodily sensations, our emotions, and our intuition. I think that the essence of the fairy godmother personifies Mother Earth and embodies the natural magic of life and the gift-giving potential of having faith in the benevolent, life-giving force that supports and nurtures all living things. If you've ever found yourself hoping and wishing that your own fairy godmother would appear before you to make all of your wildest dreams come true, look within yourself. She has been within you all along. It broke my little heart when Cinderella wasn't invited to the king's ball, and she still had to help her sisters prepare for the event. But that letdown made it even more magical when the fairy godmother turned the pumpkin into a carriage and Cinderella's rags into the most beautiful gown. We can feel Cinderella's excitement and live vicariously through her. At the king's ball, she's not hidden somewhere in a tower. She is the center of attention and everyone's eyes are on her. It represents a pivotal opportunity for transformation. It is the event where Cinderella's true beauty and worth are revealed to both herself and to everyone else, allowing her to step out of her oppressed life into her truest potential. But why does Cinderella have to leave before midnight?
Now, just a minute. You must understand, my dear. On the stroke of 12, the spell will be broken, and everything will be as it was before.
The time limit on the fairy godmother's magic symbolizes the boundaries of magic and fantasy, reminding us that those transcendent moments can most certainly transform our reality, but it's up to us to integrate the lessons that we learn from them and to balance the intense transformation with real-life practicality. We are only imperfect humans, after all. When the clock strikes midnight, Cinderella quickly runs away from the prince and the ball, leaving behind one of her magical glass slippers. Now, why don't her glass slippers return to their original tattered form? That's because the glass slipper itself symbolizes Cinderella's true self and unique identity. So the slippers surviving the magic spell can symbolize the fact that Cinderella's inner beauty and authenticity are real and enduring, not just products of temporary magic. It is the lasting change that is left behind in the real world after the luminosity has worn off, and it gives the prince a way to find her again. Then the prince uses the glass slipper to test all the women who attended the ball, looking for the perfect fit. This symbolizes internal discernment between true uniqueness and all of the varying masks and ways of being that our society and culture give to us. When the glass slipper breaks, we think all is lost, until Cinderella herself pulls out the matching glass slipper that fits her foot perfectly. And the prince and Cinderella are married, and they live happily ever after. Now, instead of looking at this traditional fairy tale ending as dating advice on how to find our soulmate, let's look a little deeper. Maybe we all have a Cinderella and prince inside of us, and they represent both our feminine and masculine sides. The marriage then represents Cinderella's achievement of self-realization, where she integrates all aspects of her personality and achieves a state of wholeness. According to Carl Jung, true enlightenment requires a process of becoming conscious of our inner selves, including both the light and the dark aspects. That is what the marriage and the happily ever after actually symbolize. The psychological balance and deep happiness that comes from uniting the opposites within the psyche, from becoming conscious of and accepting the entirety of ourselves. So the next time you sit down to watch Disney's Cinderella, think about your own life's journey so far and try to locate all the characters from the story within you. Can you identify the well-meaning but neglectful father? What about the jealous, power-hungry stepmother? The cruel and vain stepsisters? What about the magical fairy godmother? And the prince? What about the glass slipper that fits only you? These elements exist within all of us as psychological forces that all play a role within our psyches, and our awareness of these internal forces is all that's really required of us. We only need to shine our consciousness within ourselves and let our uniqueness guide us in life. So slide your feet into your own glass slippers and live out your own unique happily ever after. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end. Please subscribe, like, comment. What did you think? Tell me in the comments.